As Bitcoin takes off to the races, leaving alts in the dust, many investors feel the urge to chase those Bitcoin gains. That is not what I'm doing, though I am very happy to see Bitcoin taking off because I want BTC to run because I know that that will bring a major bounce for the alts. And these alt gains will far exceed the Bitcoin gains. Now, I've seen this pattern before in the past many times. It's a signal that outsized alt gains are likely coming soon. Today, we have one of the best technical analysis experts joining us for a look into what is hot, also what is not, what he is seeing in the charts, as well as my perspective from a fundamental analysis. So please welcome Paul from Definity, who is joining us again. Paul, are you here?
I am indeed. It's great to be here. I really look forward to our weekly meeting. So, yeah, and there's so much going on as well. So
there is. Awesome. Yeah, thanks for joining us. It is an exciting time. I mean, we just crossed over October, feeling a lot different than September already.
Yeah.
But I'm always a little bit leery when everyone gets so bullish, especially right before I think a major move is going to happen, because often we will see, you can call it a scam wick, you can call it whales kind of playing with people,
Sure.
But we even see Bitcoin taking off some, but that usually, like, some bad news, coordinated bad news event comes out, freaks out a lot of the new people, gets them to sell, and then we enter a parabolic move. Now, we did have one earlier this year, way back in the spring, with February and March going crazy and almost everything running. If I'm right, we have a much bigger move, maybe 3 times the size of that coming, and it's going to be an exciting time if that happens.
I totally agree. I've been looking for over 100,000 of Bitcoin for next year, and I think, as we discussed quite a few times, it's a question of whether we need to pull that forward to this year, or whether it was a target for next year. And part of the reason why I was expecting perhaps there to be a greater correction was because we were seeing asset prices, generally speaking, turning down. So that's a risk-off environment. So, I mean, we pretty much nailed the top of the S&P, the NASDAQ, and you see how everything's, even tech is turning down. And that is a risk-off situation, which should have fed into the cryptocurrency assets, and possibly the dollar. Well, the dollar was going up as well. So there's so many things that were like pulling against investors to say, you know, put money into other places and take it out of risk on areas. But towards the tail end of last week, even though equities were going up, there was a big move against a resistance line in Bitcoin, which we're going to look at. And we talked a little bit about it on our show and on our Definity show. I mentioned that I realized it could be one of the biggest weeks in Bitcoin or cryptocurrency, the most important weeks, because we were so close to so many levels. But what we've also already seen is a very big rally in some of these altcoins that were kind of, I've been using the term, it's a coin picking market, because Bitcoin wasn't really that interesting. It was just sort of going sideways. Whereas these other coins have been fantastic. I mean, there's some brilliant opportunities that you've spotted and we've talked about. So it was a question of whether Bitcoin is just going to wake up and start doing this. Now, I love what you've just said in the intro, that Bitcoin's moved and then the altcoins will then follow again. So this could be, you know, we could be in for a really big move. I mean, it could be just so exciting. So I'm really keen to see what you're saying about the fundamentals of some of the really interesting moves that are going on in the technicals.
Absolutely, and we want to thank all those viewers on our Wednesdays when we do this video. If you tell us which ones you want us to look at next week, leave those in the comments below and we'll look at them. But please, only 2 suggestions. Also, if it's one we haven't regularly covered on the channel, will you give us, like, as much as you can, a quick fundamental analysis on why you like it? And that helps us, because I can't be aware of everything out there, and I know sometimes my audience catches ones that I don't even catch. And so some of my big gainers that I've had in the past year have come from suggestions from the audience that when I looked at it too, I really liked it. So feel free to throw some suggestions in there of what you want reviewed, and we'll review it next Wednesday.
Absolutely. That sounds, I mean, it's a community. So, you know, what you find. I might see something technically. Actually, one of the charts that you've asked for this week was something that I was looking at towards the end of last week, and I was like, "Oh, this is great! I've got to put it on the show." But somebody's already asked for it, so we'll look at that. But we'll start off with what you guys have asked for, and thank you so much for all your suggestions, and as you say, keep them coming. I'm going to start off with my trading view chart because this is the line that I was talking about last week.
Oh, just a sec. There we go.
I'm up there. Brilliant.
There we go. I fixed it.
So this is the line. So I've been talking about a Rubicon level, which is this 53,500 to 5,400, which it's already gone through. But the first step to triggering that breakout was this move here, which was around 44,000. So I said if it could get through this 44,000 level, it would break this line, it would negate this downward move, and then we would look at 46, and then if it breaks that, we'll look at 54. Now, it's done it all in 1 week. Typically, we didn't get a chance to talk about it in between, which is a bit of a shame. But it was triggered. That was your trigger for a short-term trade, which is turning now into a long-term trade. So the question is, what is going to happen now? Well, this was my Rubicon level. So technicals is about finding a level where you become either bullish or bearish and going with it. Now, why would the market want to go up like this if it's not going to at least attempt to break the high? So I think we've got to move these 100,000 targets, to this year and perhaps even before the end of the year. So I don't think it's going to be a straight line. I think, what Crypto Rainn said here is absolutely spot on. There will be a smashback in this and people will panic out again. But the trend now looks like it's up. And Bitcoin is leading the way. I think, again, that, yes, this will wax and wane because the other coins will play catch up. But, we can't argue with the price. The price is strong and the noise is around Bitcoin at the moment. It's done what we asked it to do. We said break these levels and we'll get bullish. It's done it. So 100,000, here we come. I mean, obviously, there are things that could negate that, but this was the breakout signal that we needed to negate this big top. It's done it. So this now looks like it's all going to be part of an upward trend. So this is a really good sign. So so I think we can bring forward these targets for this year.
That is exciting. It's been interesting to try to guess how this is going to play out, and we don't have a lot of data points to go back and look at. One of the things I'm good at is pattern recognition. The challenge is when we look at patterns, Bitcoin has roughly fallen in this 4-year cycle, and altcoins have kind of fallen in line with Bitcoin cycle. And essentially, every 4 years, Bitcoin has a halving where the supply of new Bitcoin that's produced gets cut in half. And so per 10-minute block, let's say it's producing 6.5 Bitcoin. When that gets halved, it then goes to 3.25 Bitcoin per block. And so what it leads to is a supply problem about a year, a little longer than a year later. And so it causes a supply shock, which demand still continues strong, but supply is cut in half. And so we see this parabolic move and essentially a repricing of Bitcoin. It first overbooms, then it usually overbusts, and then the cycle continues again. And so we only really have 2013 and 2017 to look at. So not a lot of data points. And there's a lot of data to suggest lengthening cycles, which means from when the halving is to when the next major move is, seems to be increasing in time by a little bit each cycle, but we don't have a lot to look at. So I've been curious to see when this parabolic move happens. Does it happen in December? Does it happen in January? Does it happen as late as May? So with this breakout, it's indicating that it might be sooner, but we will see how it plays out. I mean, that is a strong breakup, and there is still a lot of pressure pushing down on Bitcoin. It's just the bulls that were buying it up put a lot more pressure on it than those that were selling. And so strong breakout, seeming to indicate maybe we have the breakout, like the huge parabolic run, as soon as December maybe.
Yeah. I mean, it could well be. So, I mean, it's obviously, if we say it's a probability thing, the probability just has shifted so much towards the upside that we cannot ignore it. And we wouldn't want to ignore it because, again, we're not, none of us are saying that we're long-term bears either. It's just a question of what is the path to this moving to 100,000. So that's the interesting thing here. And I mean, look, let's look at one of the requests, which was Solana, which we've looked at before anyway. Now, Solana, I mean, this highlights what's been going on in the altcoins and how there's already been this parabolic move to the upside in some of these coins, while Bitcoin was just doing nothing. So it's what makes this such an interesting space, and all these smaller coins so interesting as well. But Solana basically got a little ahead of itself, and we've shown that a few times. We were looking for a correction back to a trend line, which it's done really nicely. So it's come back to its trend line. It bounced off that. In our weekly that I put out, I said this was the line to buy it against, and it's gone up from there. So it went up from about 30, 38, 39 towards how to go at this 180 level. Nearly got there, but not quite. Now it's corrected back to the trend line again, but that trend is still up. So I think before the end of the year, this will be trading near to the 216 level, and trying to break higher again. So this is still a bull phase, and this is very much leading the way. So I expect more on the upside. Cardano was another one that we were asked about. Again, it's not done a whole lot. It's still in this range, but what's interesting about this, what I like about this is this technical pattern is very similar to the one that we saw in Bitcoin before it went zooming up. So one of the things that Crypto Rainn was saying about, he's good at pattern recognition. This is what I'm looking for. I'm looking for something I've seen before that gives us a good probability. Now, the probability of a breakout to the upside is just increased by a massive amount. If you're wrong and you were taking a short-term trade, you might not lose very much money. But if you're right, you're going to make a lot. And that's risk-reward. So short-term traders would look at this as a good risk-reward trade to the upside, even though it's slumbering slightly. It's not doing a whole lot. But if it follows the pattern of what we saw last week, Bitcoin's moved, then the people who were late into it would just say, do I really want to buy Bitcoin when it's moved up like 10% or 5%, 6%, 10% each day? Let's look at what hasn't moved and start to play catch up. So I think this could have an interesting move up. So although technically it's not screaming as a buy, I think given the overall market analysis, and this is why I like to look at everything, this gives a better probability for an upside move. So I'm going to move over to the coin trader charts, because those have got the other setups that you've asked for. So we'll go through that as well. So if we start off with the Bitcoin dominance, which is really interesting because I always look at that. I look at the Ether versus Bitcoin chart a lot, because I think that tells us a lot about old technology, new technology. And I personally was really expecting another leg down in this, an Ether to hold. And I've said it a few times, but I've been wrong. I've been wrong about that. So I'm wrong about that particular element, because it looks like Bitcoin is actually going to start pushing up, possibly for the next few weeks. So it's going to lead a retracement. Now, it's too early to talk about this being a double bottom. So a double bottom is a major reversal pattern. It's a massive signal. It would imply quite a lot of outperformance by Bitcoin against the rest of the market. It's moved very nicely in Bitcoin's favor, but not enough. If you look at that overall chart, it's not enough to say, it's really, really dominating. It's just managed to hold off these lows. But I was expecting a faster breakdown. I was expecting a little consolidation, breakdown, break this low, and then break the all-time low. So I thought we were going to see some really big moves. But that's not happened. So it's pushing against us, and from a short-term trading perspective, this has made a little reversal, which is enough to go with from now until next week. So I would still be watching this week to week. It's not moved enough for us to say, okay, the next 3 to 6 months it's going to outperform. But it has moved enough for us to say, yeah, okay, this has shifted a little bit, and I wouldn't be surprised to see the next couple of weeks Bitcoin outperforming, but it will wax and wane.
Agreed. And the Bitcoin dominance, for those that are new to crypto and just new to what that is, it's Bitcoin's share of the overall crypto market cap. And so as Bitcoin increases and altcoins stay essentially the same price or even go down, then Bitcoin's dominance increases relevant to that. So that's what we're looking at, because that's essentially what's happened. Bitcoin's price has gone up. Many of the altcoins have stayed the same or gone down some, and so its dominance has been increasing. Now, usually what happens in a parabolic move or the parabolic run, and we only have 2017 really to look at, is Bitcoin's dominance kicked up some, and then it slid down a slide, and altcoins ran tremendously. And this is why I'm positioned mostly in altcoins, and it's the riskier play. And for many of you, your threshold might not be the same as my threshold. And so I'm in mostly altcoins. Really, the only Bitcoin I'm holding is my wife's half a Bitcoin that she bought forever ago. And she doesn't know how to have it, so I have an account set up for her. And that's it, because the altcoins, though Bitcoin might run and it might outperform for the next week or so, maybe 2 weeks, who knows. I'd rather be positioned for those altcoins for when they go parabolic, because where could even Bitcoin go from here? If it did a 4x from here, that would take it to almost $200,000, which might be the top of what it could possibly hit this cycle. And altcoins, many of them have plenty of room that they could 5 or 10 or 15 or 20 or 40, or some of them even 50 or 100x. And that's why I'm positioned in altcoins. But it is the riskier move, and if you don't sell and take profits along the top, you're a lot more likely to get burned. I will be covering taking profits in the coming month more. I also have some videos, if you look back into the past month, there's some videos on taking profits there as well.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I personally, I see it as a, obviously I'm not as close to the altcoins as you guys are, and certainly not as much as Crypto Rainn. I don't know as much as he does about all the individual coins, but I see it as an endorsement of the whole sector. So given that I look at all different assets, I see it as a very positive sign for everything. But I also totally agree that, you know, when you're looking at some of the setups that we've got here, they could easily triple in a couple of weeks, whereas Bitcoin's not going to do that. I mean, it could go up a lot. I mean, it could triple. Obviously, anything can happen, but it's just not as likely. And if Bitcoin triples, they're more likely to go up 10 or 20 times. So I can see exactly why you want to concentrate on these other technologies, because they're also really far more advanced and quite a lot more interesting than the fact that we know what Bitcoin is. We know it's the best known. It's not necessarily the best. I call it the Mona Lisa of cryptocurrency, because it's the best known piece of art. It's not necessarily the best piece of art. So so we looked at Cardano, and there's so the ADAX. I'm not sure what that quite is. So perhaps you could tell me.
Yeah, this is Adax. It's a DEX. So there's about now 14 to 16 projects vying for becoming the premier decentralized exchange on Cardano, or DEX is short for decentralized exchange. And it's not clear who's going to win that, but two of the leading contenders are Adax and, well, supposedly Sunday Swap, though could be Cardax or something. It's still a little bit early. Smart contracts were just, that upgrade went into Cardano just recently, like 3 weeks ago. So it's unclear, but ADAX is one that my community has followed. I bought totally on a risky position like 3.5 months ago. Yeah. And it's performed price-wise really, really well. And they did do a video about a month ago that looked really solid, kind of demoing their DEX. So there was some recent FUD and some people got scared, and that drove the price down. There was a really interesting that happened that caused that wick up to 250. A whole bunch of massive buy orders came in, and I don't know what caused that. Was there some news that they heard about under the table? But massive buy orders. Yeah. And so that's what drove it up, and then it's come back down, And where is it going to go from here is the best question.
Yeah, well, there's not been massive selling volume, which is interesting. So you've got this big buy, and it's just sort of tailed off. Now the support here, which it bounced against, which is at 1.14, I put that in for a reason because it sat on that level for a while before then it finally broke it quite decisively. So I think there was a bit of buying against that level, and then I think people have bailed out. Now, what is interesting here is it's very close to this key low. So we've had down move, strong up move, come down to the support. So it's okay as long as it can hold over this support for me. Now, very short term, it's made what's called a doji, which is, I don't often look at single candle patterns, but a doji is a Japanese phrase for the same. So it means it's opened and closed at the same level. So you get this doji pattern, which normally indicates the end of a trend, and that trend has been down. So it looks like it could reverse. So I think there's very small technical patterns to say that this may have had its run to the downside and should find a bit more support here. Where it could get a little bit hairy is if it takes out this 0.81. I wouldn't like to see that go, because that would mean it's losing quite an important support level. But at the moment, I think given the wave in the other markets and the doji and the fact that it's rejected that level so well and shown it to be support, because it got close to it, you see, so it got very close to that level, may have even actually touched it, probably did on a spread, and there was buying there. So I like that. There's some good buying against a key support level. So I'd like to be a bit optimistic on that, but I wouldn't get too excited until it can take out this 1.14 level. Until it can regain that point, then I would really sit up and say, oh yeah, okay, this looks like it's motoring. But for now, it's doing enough for us to say, okay, this is, it's performed not so great in the short term, but in the big picture, it's still part of its range. So yeah, that's interesting. I mean, obviously you've got it from a long-term play perspective anyway. So it's like if you bought it higher up, you'd have no real reason to sell it unless something major happened with the technology.
Yeah, and this chart doesn't show prior to where this chart shows. It had come out, traded about 40 cents, retraced all the way down to the lowest pre-sale level of 10 cents, stayed there just for a bit, and then began a long upward climb back to 40 cents, 60 cents. Then we catch the pattern here at about 95 cents, where it starts here and in August, and then has gone all the way to 240 two times, and then retrace back to here. But one of the reasons, like Paul is alluding to, is like you run out of people that bought at those lower prices to sell. And so a lot of people that pay these higher prices are just content to wait to have it come back up higher so that they can turn a profit when they sell it. There are some, if really, really bad news comes, it gets people scared, and then they'll panic sell for less than what they bought at. And probably we've seen some of that here. So we'll see where it goes from here.
Yeah, interesting.
So the narrative's still a good one for the time frame, that if we have this parabolic move and we have a lot of new money then coming first into Bitcoin and then saying, oh, what are these alts? It floods first into the larger cap alts like Cardano, Polkadot, Solana, Avalanche, and then it floods into these ecosystem projects. And then these ecosystem projects largely see the largest gains because it doesn't take all that much money to make their market cap go crazy. And so that's why I'm positioned in a lot of these smaller market cap projects, because I think that wave is coming. I don't know for sure, and there are no guarantees. But if it does, I'm well positioned to catch it.
Yeah, indeed. And so you mentioned one of those, and that is Polkadot, which has been requested, and for good reason. So we've had this consolidation. I think we may have talked about it either last week or the week before, but I do remember seeing this technical pattern where we were just waiting for the breakout. And I would have been slightly concerned about this being a top, just a short-term top, because it looks very head and shouldersy, which is a reversal pattern that tells us that a trend has ended. This is a reversal pattern of a head and shoulders. So you get three like peaks. Sometimes they're at the same level. Sometimes the head is like higher, which is why it's called a head and shoulders. But really all it means is that there's volatility and selling, and it's at the end of a trend. And so we had that here, which did indicate a downward trend. We had a really lovely smooth upward trend, and then this head and shoulders, which was like, what's that doing there? We don't really want that. We want it to hold that level. So the volatility, relatively speaking, for this has been much lower than this, and that's a good sign. So when you have lower volatility, the probability increases that this is just a short-term consolidation before the market goes up. And that's what I think is going to happen here. So this little move out here, and this if we zoom in, you can see that it's negated this head and shoulders. It's come back in, nice upward move, and then it's pushing the top of this little range here. And I think as soon as it breaks over 33.63, which is what would have been the right shoulder, then we'll be pushing for this high at 38, and then ultimately going for the all-time high. So this is, again, an upward trend regardless. So it has been in an upward trend. And if we draw the trend line in across from the low, so I always take the low, and so that's obviously a significant low. And some people draw trend lines and they try to make the price action fit. So they put it to the most recent. You shouldn't do that. Just put it so it sits below all the price action. That's the correct trend line to draw. Even if you have to redraw it, that's still the correct trend line. So as long as it stays over that trend line, above it, I should say, as long as it's above that trend line, then the bias is to the upside. So it needs to clear this area that it's been range trading in. But I think it's had its chance to go down. It didn't take it. So I think now it's the time to go up. So I think it's looking very interesting.
Nice. And many of those dot ecosystem projects that we've covered over the past 4 months, and that's Shadows, that's AOS, that's ShopX, and there's many others we haven't covered. Likely when Polkadot, it's been out of focus for months and months and months now. And what's funny is in the crypto, things tend to run in cycles, and when it comes back into focus, my guess is all those ecosystem projects, they run and they run hard. So that'll be nice to see. If you think about Gavin Woods, who was one of the co-founders of Ethereum, specifically the one that wrote the Solidity language, he's a genius. He created this dot ecosystem, and it is massive, and it's had massive buy-in from a lot of projects. What it hasn't had lately is a lot of focus on it. But as that focus comes in, people wake up and say, oh my gosh, and then they start talking about the projects that we've already been talking about while they've been boring.
Yeah, absolutely. I think he wrote that language in a few weeks. I think perhaps you told me that, or somebody told me it, but it's just like, just crazy how smart he is.
Yes.
And you're absolutely right. We had looked at some of those other coins, and they were very interesting. So Avalanche, I believe this is the correct one. And again, look how this has performed compared to Bitcoin. It's just been absolutely unbelievable. Amazing. It's taken this big high out. It's taken it out recently. And yeah, there's a bit of volatility above it, but this is on a new level now. And so it's come back for a retest. So when a market takes out such a huge level up at 58, often it will come back and have another look, because there are people looking to buy the breakout and they want to sell it just because they know it's a big level. So they'll buy it just before the breakout. They look for the breakout. The market goes up as it's done, and then they bank those profits. And then they'll look for the next move, and they won't be long-term players. But for the long-term players, this is still in an upward trend. So it's very tempting to take profits up here. I can understand that. But for the moment, as long as it holds over this breakout point, which is at 58, upside over 80. So this should continue. So Avalanche is again very interesting.
Absolutely. I did want to say for the audience out there, I'm curious, and we're curious to hear where your portfolio is at present, because I do think we have a big bull run coming. And it'd be nice if you noted down, even for yourself, there are scammers and there are people out there, so be pretty cryptic if you do put it in the comments, because there are people with malintent. But more importantly, note it down for yourself where your portfolio is right now as of the beginning of October. And I'm curious to hear what your gains are like by the end of this year, so that by the end of this year, if you tell me what your gains did from October through the end of the year, like is it a 2x, is it a 5x, is it a 50x, is it a 26x, whatever the number is, I definitely want to hear that.
Brilliant.
Cool. And if you're liking the content from this, if you haven't already, subscribe and join us. Now, Wednesdays, we have Paul from Definity, who's our special guest, and Definity is gracious enough to loan him to us because he's got such fantastic decades worth of technical analysis, and that just helps me give you a better background, because I'm a fundamental person with some technical analysis skills, but nowhere near Paul's depth on that. So at least I can give you, through having Paul on, what I can't give you directly myself. And I don't mind not being the expert as long as I can bring the expert to you.
Yeah, I second that with the fundamental stuff. I don't think I could sit and read the reports and do that sort of analysis. For me, I just want to see a chart. But I take my hat off to you to be able to do that and to know so much about all these different coins and technologies, because they are fascinating. And I think I would probably sit down and start looking at them and then just go, actually, what does the chart look like? I may as well just look at the chart. But when they're correcting, that's what you've got to know about. You've got to know whether you're going to be sticking with it or whether actually it's something you're going to bail out of. So you will hear me say when things start to look a bit like they're approaching lows, I personally start to get a bit nervous, because I think, well, okay, it shouldn't be holding these levels. It should be holding these levels. Where would I be thinking of getting out? But that's actually where you have the edge, because you'd say, well, actually that technology is really good. I'm going to hold in there. Now, what I would see then is the coin hit a low and then turn around. And when it does turn around, then I get interested again. So everybody has their own way of looking at things, and nothing is absolutely right. It's only what's right for you. So you might like to be a short-term trader, trade little breakouts, just in and out, and then no position. Or you might want to be a very long-term trader, find what's the most, the strongest coin and just go with that. Or something in between, and it could be a bit of fundamentals, bit of technicals, or just one or the other. So I always think it's not a question of what is right or wrong, it's what is right or wrong for you, because I'm pretty sure I would have bailed out of some of the positions that Crypto Rainn had, but then went on to make really big gains, because I thought, oh, this is going down, and would have had to rebuy. So I think it's really important to have your own method of analyzing it. And with the charts, if you notice, I don't put very much on them. They're pretty much naked, because I know a lot of technical analysts who, they put moving averages, oscillators, all sorts of things on there, and they're focusing on that, and they're not looking at the price action. And again, it's not saying that they're wrong. I'm just saying that I like to just look at what the price is doing, because for me, we trade the price. This is why we look at the price action. We have to trade the price. The price determines all those other things that I've mentioned. And so therefore, I put all my focus onto that and at the levels at which they break out, etc., because I think that's more important. But again, it's up to you to come up with your method of analyzing the market. But there's nothing wrong with keeping it simple, because ultimately it's a question of buy, sell, or hold, or avoid possibly. We try to keep that as simple as possible. So when it comes to Terra against the Terra Luna against the dollar, I'm sure this is the right chart, because look at this. This has just been amazing. I think we put this line in last week or a few weeks ago, and I was saying if it breaks that, then I think we've got a bit of a problem, because it was potentially looking like a head and shoulders. And again, you can't invent patterns. You've just got to say that's a possibility, but let the market tell you. What has the market told us? It's told us that's not a head and shoulders. It's told us it wants to go up and it wants to break a new high. So that's amazing. So this trend is continuing up. All we can say is go with that trend. It's still bullish. It's had a little correction here, because when you break the high, as I said before, there are people who are just trading it for a very short-term profit, and so the market hit a high, they bail out, take their profit, and then the market comes back for a correction. But this trend is still up, and I would expect it to hold over this 41 level. I don't want to see it close below there. And I think this could turn into quite a smooth upward trend. The best types of trend, obviously, are smooth trends, because it means that the investors aren't trying to play this game of breakout. So you get these nice smooth trends, but you've also got to watch out for something that Rainn mentioned a few videos ago, about when you start to get everybody noisy on a particular coin. And then when that happens and everyone's talking about it, when it's really hot, if it's high, then that can be a time to be contrary and say, okay, now everybody's talking about it. Just be a little bit more cautious that it might have a correction.
Fantastic. What's so interesting about this ecosystem, Terra Luna, is they don't have a lot of apps building on it, but the ones they do are so exceptional. And I really did a deeper dive into them because of a project that was launching called Star Terra. And I did a deep dive with my manager, Doctor of Stuff, and we looked at Star Terra. And I downloaded the Terra Station wallet and started playing around with the Terra ecosystem, as well as they have in the Terra ecosystem a place that you can deposit the stablecoin UST and get almost 20% returns on it, which is pretty intriguing for a stablecoin return. So I had to play around with that as well. And yeah, I'm really impressed. So they don't have a lot of apps or dApps on it, but the ones they have are amazing. And I think it's because they're selective on which ones they want on the ecosystem. So it's kind of like the Navy SEALs or the Spetsnaz of a blockchain and ecosystem, that they're very selective on what's going to build on it, but then the stuff that does usually has proved out so far to be very good.
Amazing. It's that background stuff that is just, I find absolutely fascinating. So when you hear it, it's just sort of backs up what you're seeing in the price action. Yeah. So the next one is according to
Umbrella.
Umbrella. Yeah. So we know Umbrella because this
Mm-hmm.
was for those of you who have just joined us. For a few weeks back, we were looking at this as a reversal pattern and an inverse head and shoulders. So all that means is that the market is ending a trend and starting a new one. And so before that happens, you get, the people who bail out, which is what I was saying about when the market starts to hit a low, I go, ooh, actually, I think I want to be out of this because it's diving to zero. Hopefully not. And then the people who know stuff like Rainn go, hey, that's a brilliant buy. I'm just going to tuck into it right here and get a little bit because I really like the technology. And then it settles down, and then it starts to move into a new upward trend, which is what's happening now. So we caught it just before it broke out here, and it's still within the upward trend. So I'd like to see it move a little more smoothly to the upside, but that's only because, it's when you have a correction, it feels like, okay, these are big percentage moves. So you're not talking about small amounts when they correct off. So you want to see it move with nice momentum, really, really smooth upward trends. But look, the trend is up. It's still up, and nothing has changed. So, this is steady as she goes. The course is going right. The market's going up. And so there's not much more you can ask from it. Now, the only thing I can say here, or the only thing I'll be considering here, is where do I think things start to go wrong? So if I'm happy with it, but I'm saying, okay, where are the kind of trip lines to say, okay, watch out, it shouldn't be breaking these levels. Those levels are at 0.31, which was the initial breakout point. I don't mind it coming back for a retest. That's okay, because that can happen before it moves into an even bigger move. But I don't want it to break it, or it's not significantly. And the overall sort of the most simplest technique you can use in technical analysis is just a trend line. So you could say, as long as it's above that trend line, I'm going to stay in the position. Now that could be in effect into next year and beyond. So it could hold above this trend line for a very long time, or it could break in a couple of weeks. We don't know. But that is the discipline of long-term trading. It comes from holding over, in technical analysis, certainly, it's from holding over a line or a trigger point to keep you in the position. Now, the technology may change and somebody might say, well, okay, I'm going to get out because of something else or whatever that might be. And if that happens, we'll see it breaking a trend line, and that will be our way of getting out of it. So I would never expect to get the top or the bottom of a market. I think other people who know more about the fundamentals will be able to do that. But as a simple trading technique and understanding technical analysis, this is what it's for. It's just keep it simple. If it's over the line, I'm going to stay in it. If it breaks it, then that is one element of a reversal of your position, or that's what I would look for. But I'm not necessarily saying that's what you should do. Just saying this is a technique that can keep you in the market if you're worried, and that only happens when you're watching every tick. So I think once you're in something, it can be better just to not look at it every day. If you're not a short-term trader, it can be quite wearing on your analysis. So if you're watching every tick, you feel really bullish as it goes up, really bearish as it goes down, and it's like that's no way to operate in the markets, because it's just emotionally really draining, especially when you're looking at lots of charts. So as much as you can do to simplify what you're going to do, you say, if it's above this line, I'm just not going to look at it, and then put an alert somewhere. So I'd put a couple of alerts, one at 0.32 and possibly one a little bit higher. And then if I get pinged, fine. And if I don't, then I know it's above the level and I don't have to look at it.
Yeah, this one, we did a deep dive on it when it was down a lot lower, because there were some fundamental things screaming that this would do well, and it has. So I entered some positions back when I covered it. I did get a heads up from some people behind the scenes, and they said, have a look at Umbrella Network. And so I was, yeah, whatever. And then I started looking at it, and I was like, oh my gosh. And generally the market was in a funk, but I was like, this is screaming that it's going to do well. Screaming. And they've got some big things coming up. I was able to get in touch with John Chen from the Umbrella team. And yeah, really, he was fantastic and very helpful. And it's done phenomenally. And so I know a lot of rainmakers also got into this. And not a bad time to take your initial out. I'm not telling you what to do. I absolutely took out my initial back out, so it's a risk-free position, 100%.
So, that's really interesting you do that. So from a risk management point of view, you've got your capital back, and then you can just sit back and leave it.
Yeah, and the reason I wanted to do that, not because I don't believe in this, I do believe in, they've got a strong competitive product or service compared to Chainlink, who dominates this space. And so I like the fundamentals of their actual business solutions. But I think we're going to have this massive bull run, but there's so much that's so cheap right now is why it was important for me to take my initial out, because it's hard. There's so much that I think has potential to do well, and I can't, even though this is my second cycle, and I'm probably in a different position than many of you, that if this is your very first cycle, you still don't have enough liquidity to be in everything that you want to be in. So it was nice to take out my initial plus some and be in a risk-free position. So
yeah, good money management there. It's good to learn from that. I mean, like you say, that some of the charts that we're going to come to, I know we've only got a few left, but some of them are, as you say, quite cheap, and I'd be really interested in what you've got to say about them, because for me, those are the ones where I'm much more cautious, as you could probably tell. But MODEFI, I think we looked at that, didn't we, a few weeks back? I can't remember what I remember the charts better than I remember the names. So
right.
So this. I think this is the one that we didn't have much data on, and we went to CoinGecko possibly, but maybe not. But either way, look, this has been in a downward trend. It's made a reversal pattern. I'm not really sure where this has come from, whether it's a big downward trend or a small one, but it has made a reversal and it is now going up. So I think go with that trend. I mean, there's not much data there. So again, I'd have to defer to you for the technology aspect of it and what might be interesting about it. But look, there we go. A really nice trend line that it's respecting. 1, 2, 3, 4 times it's already hit that. Now, what's all this about? There's a big red candle here, or red, sorry, volume indicator here. So there's been a bit of selling. That's quite a big move. But, you know, it's still, the market's still rising. This is still going up. So although that kind of sticks out a little bit, despite the amount of volume, the market is still within this upward trend. So I think that's a positive sign. As long as the fundamental technology's good, given that it's not much data there, I think, yeah, that's still okay. It still looks all right.
Yeah, this one is in the same space as Umbrella. It's an Oracle solution, a decentralized one, and they're also bringing off-chain data onto chain, because one of the hard things about crypto is it has to often, some of the contracts or smart contracts have to figure out what the price of something is at a given time, and that's what an Oracle does, provide with that price analysis. But you know, they need like off-chain data to bring on chain, so it's in a similar space here. I don't know it as deeply, but it's generally in the same space. What is interesting is they had that big volume candle, is that still the price didn't suffer that much. It bounced back and left at almost the same level it entered in, or it's at almost the same level that it entered in. Even though there's been a lot of selling, that also means there's been almost as much buying.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think given the broader environment and the interest that's going on, I would be biased towards the upside. So you could read that slightly two ways, but I think it's better to read it as a positive way for the moment, just because of the way everything's going and the fact that it's still in an upward trend. So that's okay. That for me clinches it. If it's going to break the line, it's going to break it, but it hasn't. So, you know, we can't say it's bearish because the trend is up. So yeah, so that looks interesting. So Freeway. This is something that is, it's kind of like a plane and a holding pattern. It's like just going around and around. It's not actually doing very much at this moment in time. Now we'd like it to soar to a higher level, of course, but I can't justify saying that it will until I see a little bit more activity. Unless I can see a bullish breakout of some kind. So it's so very much balanced where it is now. It's like literally in the middle of a short-term range. Obviously, we can see what's been going on here where we had a big breakout and it's just come back again. But this has settled down. It's like the lows are no longer declining. It's flattened out into a range. And so I think this is as steady as she goes. At some point, if I was holding it, I would just hold it because it's not going down. And although it's not going up, as Rainn was saying about, you may have pressure on your capital. So if you see something else going, I could understand why you might want to get out of this and look at something that looks technically a bit more bullish. But if you don't want to do that, this is still holding up. So it's not doing anything in either direction to make me look at it for more than a few seconds. I go, yeah, that's in a range next. That's how I would see it. But it doesn't mean that it won't suddenly break out. I would definitely keep an eye out on some breakout points. And as it gets to 0.0109, I'd be like, okay, is this going to go? But the big level here is 0.129. So if it takes that out, yeah, that'd be really interesting.
Now, personally on this one, I would love it to drop to 0.5 cent again, because I'm not done accumulating as much as I want. And so, I have a bunch of it, so it's not that I need to accumulate more, but I want to. And I'm hoping from this 0.88 cents, it actually dips down some more and follows this trend line a little bit lower so that I can pick up some more. And the reason I want to pick up some more is not just for price appreciation, but also for its use case. See, Aubit's platform allows you to deposit money into their stablecoin supercharger that's been doing about 40% or a little over 40%. And I plan to roll some of my stablecoins into that. Now, in order to be able to apply the superchargers to it, you have to be holding a lot of their freeway tokens. So its use case is coming online, and some of their interfaces are being streamlined. They have an interface for, and you can create a login down below. If you're outside the US, it's different than if you're inside the US. The inside the US one isn't working it's not connected to the interface yet, though you can create your login, be set up. The US interface will be coming very soon. And so that'll allow you to, and it's being improved. The things behind the scenes are working. They just have to streamline the interface and get it all working on both sides so that you can easily deposit into the superchargers and see how they're doing, and if you want to pull out. But I'm setting this up as one of my places I want to put a bunch of my gains in stablecoins to earn above average returns. And so I've just been accumulating more of the freeway tokens because the use case isn't so relevant to me yet, but it will be. And as that use case becomes super relevant to a lot of people and they're like, oh, these superchargers are amazing, and they want to put funds in there, then they're going to say, oh my gosh, I need to get a bunch of freeway tokens. And so then we'll see demand spike up tremendously for the freeway token, and with that the price will go up. And I don't want to be paying those really high prices later, because I saw this happen with Celsius, which has some similar tokenomic structures. And I passed on buying Celsius at like 3 cents. I ended up watching it go to 60 cents. And then when it retraced to 45, I put about 5 or 6 grand into it and was lucky enough to have that go all the way to 100,000 in value. But I kicked myself because I could have got it when it was 3 cents. And if I'd put 5 grand in then, it would have went to $1 million total. So will freeway token have the same kind of price appreciation? I don't know. But what I don't want to be doing, so essentially I'm putting in at that really low price, that even if it just goes 10x from here, great. If it goes 100x from here, really great. In fact, Celsius went 200x from that 5,000 price level, or 5,000 investment that I could have made if I hadn't have waited. And so will freeway token do those kind of numbers? I have no idea, but it is set up with some tokenomics similar to what Celsius did. The project itself doesn't have as much credibility yet as Celsius did, but back when I was looking at Celsius back at 3 cents, it was the same level of risk. They were working with the regulators in the U.S. and other countries. They were doing everything right to get approved, and so the risk seemed really high, but they were doing the right things. So freeway token is regulated out of their Aubit is regulated out of the UK. They did go through the regulators to get approved for the US, just a different interface and different things that they're allowed in the US. So they're doing all the right things, and I like to see that. So they're a known team. They're not like hiding their names or other things. So I like this one, and I plan to use it for some of my gains. I'll probably roll some of my gains into Anchor Protocol on the Terra blockchain. At right now it's paying about 19% interest, and and some into Freeway token in their superchargers for stablecoins. They're paying about 40%. The only thing that has me skeptical is those returns are so high, makes me scared to put in like 50% of my portfolio into something like that, just in case there's a risk. And I have spoken to the CEO, and I've spoken to some other team members, and they explained it all to me, and I wish I could say that I understood 100% of what they explained to me, and it did make sense. But I was barely grasping the edges of it, trying to understand it. Me trying to explain it to you would be a complete and utter fail. So maybe I can have them on sometime in the future. They can explain that. If you are interested in looking into more details, you can sign in. The links are below under See More.
Excellent.
All right.
Sounds really interesting. Yeah, I'm definitely going to keep an eye on that because, like you say, it's going sideways, but the story behind it is very interesting. So, Proton. This is the one that I was gonna show you anyway. Now, I bought some Proton because
Nice.
yeah, because I bought some last week because I could see this technical pattern. See, we had this low and the market was moving up, and then we had this like little triangular constriction, which I really love. And when we start seeing a lot of those, you're going to find them really, really good. So they're great further up in the trend, but it just felt like this wanted to go. And sometimes it's just an instinctive thing. And also that's another point that, I'll give you my view on what I see, but that doesn't necessarily mean I would trade it. But there are times when I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna have to have that. That looks really good. So I bought this one. I've got no idea about it. I'm probably going to be told something about it that I don't want to hear. Maybe I don't know. Actually, or maybe Crypto Rainn's going to tell me some brilliant technology and how clever I've been, which is like, for me that would be that would be quite funny. But from a technical point of view, it just looked really good, and I just thought, well, around here I'm going to buy some, and it's moved up quite nicely. So I think it will go higher. It's difficult a bit more difficult to talk about something when you have a position in it, because I don't want to start talking personally from a technical point of view, my book. So you need as pure a position, a view of your position as you could possibly have. But I will be critical of it if I had to be. But as you can see, the breakout has come nicely. It's taken out this level. This was the real level that I wanted it to take out, 0.11. So 0.11, it went straight through it. Didn't even look at it. Didn't touch the sides. Off it went, which is the best sort of trade. We don't want it breaking and then hanging around and coming back and, making it second guess a little bit. But there has been some profit taking. So clearly there were some breakout players who thought this would happen, and they're now taking their profit. But look how it's come down. It's come all the way back up again. So it's been bought up. So I still think this is good. So I would be inclined to hold on to it. But I'd love to hear what Crypto Rainn's going to say about it.
I don't know what news has come out on this. It seems like there's some anticipation for something. This is a payments chain, essentially, so that you could go through KYC, and so there's no anti-money laundering things that the government's, that they want to see that. You can send money to somebody's name, so like they can get their own unique username, like @Rainn or something, and so you send money to @Rainn instead of this long string of things that if you mess up one number or letter in there, the money's lost.
That's clever. That's very clever, and that's needed, isn't it? It's a necessity is the mother of invention, as they say.
Yeah, and 4,000 transactions per second. Users don't pay gas fees. I'm not sure what news or what anticipation caused this to pump faster than everything, but my guess is there's something out there on it.
Yeah, I mean, there's not that much data either. So, again, it's like these smaller coins. There is some good upside. There's more risk though as well because they're not as established. But as you say, that's a really interesting story there as to what they're actually doing. Perhaps I should have looked into it, but again, technically it looks great. I was just looking at the bigger picture chart while we were getting that fantastic background information, just to see whether this was part of a bigger reversal pattern, because as you can see, this has come up to the 0.03 level before and come off it. Now, that would be what I'm gunning for in terms of we want it to take that out. So if we look at the rate of incline, it can still correct a little bit and still be within that path. But if this is really going to go, that's the level it needs to take out. It needs to get drawn towards it and then take it out. Probably not going to be a straight line move, but that is the next, that's the major level that it needs to take out. In between, we've got 0.02. Of course, that's a psychological number. So I think there will be a bit of profit taking if it hits that level. But the trend is up, so we're going with it. So very interesting call for that. Thank you for asking for it. And the next one is one, which I think, again, this is one that we've looked at. And I've got a feeling you're still looking for lower levels to buy, if I'm right, but I'm not going to put words in your mouth. This is, to me, very similar. It's very similar to the freeway token in the sense that if we look at the two, they are operating almost, in mirror image. that they're just consolidating. So
this is interesting because this is versus Bitcoin. It's actually
oh,
done better versus US dollar, but it does show
yeah, sorry, that,
possibly a nice W forming even versus Bitcoin, which I would love to see.
oh, yeah,
I am
yeah.
still holding every penny of this and more because I have it on Zookeeper, and one swap in Zookeeper, basically some really good DeFi farming, which I've had going on since January. So my position keeps accumulating stronger and stronger.
Well, that actually changes everything. I mean, sorry, that was my mistake. I obviously just popped that in and clicked on the wrong one there, because that looks completely different. And as opposed to being in a range, this is now gearing up for a breakout. So that looks much more interesting, for sure. So it's definitely not range bound, and it's starting off a little journey here where it's pushing into this prior resistance. So you can see on the way down, it consolidated, went to a low. Now it's come back up again. It probably consolidate and then break upwards. So I want to see it get to 1.32. If you can take that out, then we are going to start going for these other levels, because there's not much what we call resistance in between. Once these levels go, we could start to get a bit parabolic about this. So we've got 1.56 as a stopping point, and then it's all the way up here. So yeah, this is looking good. Against the dollar, it looked range bound, but against this one, it's starting to move. So again, the breakout point is, oh, here we go, because it's 1, isn't it? So that's why. Because it's the psychological level of 1. So if it gets over that, I think that would draw in more buyers, because it's already done its downward move. So whoever was going to get shaken out, I would have got shaken out there, definitely, because I would have seen it go down and go, that's looking a bit negative. I'm going to get out. And then obviously it's held up, and then I'd have to rebuy it on that breakout. But that's looking good. So I'm going to keep a very close eye on that for next week. So the next one is XRP, which is set to go, I think. Like everything else, I think this will just follow in the next wave. This consolidation is so similar to what Bitcoin was doing last week, and it's just pressing over the central point of that consolidation. So again, this is the area where, how can I explain it? This is where it was like trying to decide whether to go up or down, and then it just got all positions bailed out, and it's come right back to it again. But there's a completely different feel to the whole market now. So this is why I think in the center of a range, we've got to be looking at the bullish side, because they're going to look around and go, right, okay, Bitcoin's already gone. What else hasn't moved that we know about? And Ripple is one of those coins. So even though if we were just looking at this flat, it would just be, okay, it's a bit range bound, but it's pushing up nicely. I think this has got scope to really just suddenly pop to 120 and then to 1.4 before you can blink. So I would expect this to go up quite aggressively. Now, I'd be really interested in what you think of Stellar as a technology, because I hear really good things, and then I also hear people saying that Stellar's better technology, and perhaps you should have that instead. What do you think about that?
I don't know Stellar so close. I really have never gotten into it. The challenge I have is the larger market caps. Like XRP's market cap is so large. Stellar's I haven't checked in a while, but its market cap was always uninteresting to me. So the technology, yes, and the technology for XRP, good. Just like, where can it go from here? And as I bought things like Cardano when they were really cheap and their market caps were really, really low, and I've held them, I'm even diversifying out of some of my larger caps like Cardano and Polkadot. I'm still holding for a little bit higher price mechanisms to roll into the riskier projects when I think they're about to really pop off. So usually it goes Bitcoin and then large caps and then the alts. Now, a lot of mine's positioned in these low cap alts already, but I still have some in Cardano and some of these others that I'll be pulling more out and putting into those. and then I'll be jumping out of those into something more stable, or hopefully stable, like stable coins. And so, sounds like the sirens, they're chasing somebody. It might be fire sirens.
Yeah.
Way more interesting to think they're chasing somebody, though.
Well, there's a few coins that are on fire, that's for sure.
Yeah, that's what it is. They're going to put out the fire. Yeah, you did really good on Proton. Congratulations, that's awesome.
Yeah, cheers. Yeah, so and so the last one that we're going to look at, again, this is one that I have to defer to you, Crypto Rainn, about what you think, because look at this. It's in such a downward trend that technically I cannot say buy this. I could only say buy it if there was, I can't say it technically. It would have to be a fundamental thing. And that might mean that I missed the low, and I missed something amazing, but I'm always happy to buy it on the way up. So once the wind's behind it in the opposite direction, I wouldn't personally be worried about missing a low, because I don't know where the low's going to be. But that's just my mindset. But it's also a technical mindset, because when you buy something technically, there has to be a justification, and wanting to buy it is very different to actually seeing that signal that says that you should buy it. So at the moment, I can't see a signal that says buy it. Also, if I was holding it, I would be a little bit nervous, because it's kind of going down and everything else is kind of going up. So it's sort of running against the trend a little bit, but that doesn't write it off by any stretch of the imagination, because this has the opportunity to catch up, because there will be people out there like Crypto Rainn looking at the technology behind it and going, hey, if this could get a bit cheaper, I'd be, really increasing my position. So we have to put it into context. Technically, I can't justify it yet, but that could change very quickly. If it breaks this downward trend, let me put a trend line in there and show you where I would put some alert levels. So, because you can't look at everything. So I would look at that trend, which is, it's respecting almost bang on. So when you draw your trend lines right, they can really help you. So resistance, 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 still holding. Now, if it breaks over this resistance line or downward trend line, then we can start talking about upside prospects for me, from my technical point of view. So two things have got to happen. Either it's got to break a trend line, or it's got to make a reversal pattern. And reversal patterns can take, maybe a month or two, sometimes less, to play out, but it means it consolidates, goes sideways for a bit. We get what's called accumulation, and then the market goes up. So one of those two things has got to happen before I get interested into it. But obviously, Crypto Rainn, you may be interested in it before then, so I'll be really interested to hear what you got to say.
Yeah, you'll get more information on this if you find it on CoinGecko, and CoinGecko has been having some problems today. I was able to just pull it up, though, on CoinGecko, and you'll find a lot more price history, which will change the picture of what you're looking at. Now, it looks like it has broken below some price support that it seemed to have around 80-something cents. No, is that 20-something cents? Like 22 cents. Yeah. And it broke below that, which is great, because I don't own any of this. This came from one of our suggestions from my Moonbag video yesterday and some of my Solana ecosystem projects. And he suggested we look at Saber and another one. And I wanted to include Saber in here because I like this chart a lot better. Now, it's boring, and it's probably going to get more boring, especially having broken below that 22 cents. Now, unfortunately, I didn't own any of this in July, mid-July, at whatever extremely cheap level that was, 2 cents or whatever, and it made this massive run all the way up to 80 cents. It has since retraced. This is one to keep an eye on for me. I mean, specifically Saber. It's a DeFi cross-chain liquidity network on Solana. So it's a Solana ecosystem project. Now, the only challenge with Solana ecosystem projects is that Solana was so hot recently, right? And so some of the ecosystem projects pumped with that. Solana's now been retracing some. and these will take off again when Solana gets really hot again. And the question is DOT going to take center stage, or does Solana just have so much going on that it's going to retake center stage, even though Polkadot's ecosystem should? I don't know. But that's why I'm very interested in DOT's ecosystem, but still interested in Solana, where normally I would give it more breathing room to just kind of correct and trade sideways. So this one looked interesting to me. I'm not buying any yet. It's now going to be on my radar for possibly in the future, and it's one of those really low cap ecosystem projects that are very high risk, that during a run, what I like about something with a market cap of like 4 million or something, that they can do a 50x, and that would still only take it to 200 million. Or if it goes really crazy, it can go from 4 million to 400 million, and you can get 100x returns, while Bitcoin might have just went from 50,000 to 120,000, or Cardano or Solana itself might have just went up like 2 or 3 or 4x. And so strategically, I'm positioned in some of these riskier plays because of what I feel will happen. And I know many of you won't have the risk tolerance. I am 100% playing with money that I can't afford to lose, but I don't want to lose it. I just can't afford to lose it, and I'd still be okay. It might mean I'd be getting a job at like Burger King later. Actually, I wouldn't have to get a job at Burger King. There's plenty of things I could do. But yeah, it's money that I can't afford to lose. And so if you are trading with money that you can't afford to lose, you cannot take these riskier plays at all. And I would suggest you not trade with money that you can or that you can't afford to lose, because it makes you just behave too emotional because of the fear.
That's good advice. Really good advice. Trust me. And trust him. He's speaking absolutely the truth.
Yeah, you just react differently, and you will panic sell far too often. You will FOMO buy far too often. And so it doesn't allow you that as much emotional distance as you need in order to trade successfully. Real quick, I want to thank Modrex, one of our sponsors, for help making this show possible. I also really want to thank Definity and Paul for also making this Wednesday episode possible. They make it far more interesting. They bring a lot of value to all of you, which my goal is to have the most informed audience in crypto. And through that, my hope is the wealthiest audience in crypto in the next 4 or 5 years, because I know many of you are going to take profits when it goes crazy. That'll position you well to still be here during the bear market and then buying when it's cheap, which will position you very well for the following bull run. And I'm really interested to see where we're going to be 4 and 5 years from now. And then if you commit to that 5-year cycle, I will too, because really I don't have to. After this bull run, after I take my profits, I mean, I could just cash everything out into stablecoins, stake them for good returns, and never work a day in my life again. Oh, this is way too much fun. So I'll commit to you for the 5 years if you commit as well. So join us. And if you haven't joined our Telegram group below, it's a really fun community. We do kick out anyone who's toxic so that we can keep it pristine for all of you. There's some very sharp people in there. In fact, a lot of the people that give these really good suggestions, like Proton, they're in that group, and so I can't have my eyes on everything. What I do appreciate is when people in that Telegram group, they post something they like, and then they give their fundamental analysis on it, which you often see, which is good. So then you can evaluate what you think about it, because at the end of the day, you are the decision maker. And so what we're doing with this channel is trying to give you as much education for free at no cost to you as possible, so that you can grow your education, make better and better decisions over time, so that you can invite me when you have life-changing wealth to your yacht party, or you just paid your $1 million house off cash. I do want an invite. And then if you do make life-changing gains, I want an invite to that wedding, and send me your wedding invitation with a picture of you two. Really look forward to seeing some of those as well.
Absolutely brilliant. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much, guys, for your suggestions, and we look forward to having a lot of fun. So thank you.
Thank you, Paul. You're exceptional.
Thank you.
All right, I've got a wrap for all of you, and you know, if you've been around, you know what this wrap is about. It's about reinforcing the principles that help make us successful. These are the principles that help my portfolio go from thousands to millions, and it's principle based. And if you follow these, they'll work for you too.
Came into the space chasing all of the gains, chasing the pumps and all of the hype trains. But like in life, you bad before you're good. Was taught to buy when it was boring like a rainmaker should. I buy when it's down, don't chase the boats that I miss. Cause I always make the time in mind. I sit the one out cause I'm patient like that. And I'll wait for the right time. I sell when it's high, I buy when it's low. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm just a rainmaker running the show. Calculated investments, I don't lead with my heart. The principles are simple, they're leaving a mark. Why when it's boring, just gotta be smart. I sell when it's hype, like all the channels they pump it. That's when I was selling, go Parabolic and dump it. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. The game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. The time is never better, the time like the present. This next 5 years is a gift and it's feeling like heaven. I'm committed to learn, to study and to know that nothing comes easy but when knowledge to gain show. Sticking at best wrong cause soon will come a bear market. Learning and growing and when it's slow will be the target. Naysayers come out, Bitcoin is dead. The massive decreases can get to your head. I'm sticking around, the time is better. I'm strong like that, I'll let the others be fretters. In 2 years time the bull will bring back the gains. That makes it worth the effort cause here comes the rain. So let's go rainmakers, let's make it all happen. Let go with the hate, let the haters be crapping. I'm here for 5 years, let's do this together. The time is right, the time could be better. They call me rich, they call me smart. I'm a rainmaker, making my own start. I'm with the future, learning the past. Makes the time fly by, years going so fast. This game plan is mine, I'll own it now. When I reach the top, haters asking me how. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck. Haters be hating, the time to slow down. Addressing what they say when I'm wearing my crown. They're chasing green candles like someone who was new. I got a vision that was bigger, helping me to push through. I'm still human and sometimes it is rough. And that's what makes me special, simply I stay tough. Cause I'm a rainmaker, investments I love. And I follow what I learn, not relying on luck.